Good morning, family. Good morning. Happy Monday morning. Listen, y'all ignore the sound in the background. That's my fan. I'm in Texas and it's not burning up today. In fact, we have a little cold front, but it is still humid. But I wanted to bring you all some encouragement for your week this morning. And I wanted to share transparently about kind of what I've been dealing with and in hopes that it would encourage you. I get a lot of questions about how to trust God, and specifically in the areas of finances, relationships, and breakthroughs and trials. And so I wanted to share this with you because so many of us, and I say us because I'm included, are waiting on God to do something for us financially. And when I say do something for us financially, I mean to bring us out of the season we're in where maybe we're struggling or maybe we're just believing for something financially and we have been going to God about that thing and we're waiting on breakthrough in the area. And maybe we have been believing for a while and we're having a hard time trusting, or maybe we are just in a place of need, maybe where we're working and we're, generating income, but it's not enough and we need more, or maybe we have some financial needs that we are seeking to be met and we're waiting on God for that. And you can get very weary in the wait. You can get very frustrated in the wait. And if you don't continue to trust God, you can become hopeless in that wait as well. And so about 2 weeks ago, I was not hopeless, but I was stressed out. I was frustrated. And I was feeling really discouraged because I was like, God, I have some heavy expenses coming up next week that I cannot pay. I have maxed out all the arrangements I was able to get. I've maxed out all the extra time that they were willing to give. And I was just in that place where my stomach was in knots. I was feeling a lot of anxiety about it. I wasn't even sleeping because I was waking up in the middle of the night thinking about these bills and thinking about how am I going to do this? How am I going to take care of this? God, what can I possibly do at this point? Because they've said I don't have no more time. I don't have any more options. And I can't figure these out. And if I don't figure these things out, I'm going to take some pretty heavy losses coming up in the next week that I cannot afford to take, that I can't afford to lose. And the thing that God really had to do with me was really and truly continue to remind me of the times that I've been in this situation before and he's come through. And not only that, but remind me that what is impossible with man is possible with him. And so, yes, the creditors and the bill collectors might have told me I didn't have any extra time. They couldn't extend, they couldn't give me any more arrangements. But with God, all things are possible. He is our Father. He is our source. We are favored because we are his children. So when we are in need of something and we see that the Bible says you have not because you ask not, to me, what that means is that there are going to be times where something looks impossible. And if you don't have enough faith to ask God for that impossible thing, and if you don't have enough faith to believe that even though it looks like a no, that he can make it a yes, and you're not asking like you believe that, then you are not, sometimes we ask amiss, meaning we're not asking correctly. And so in that moment, in the face of everything that I was experiencing, I was just like, God, it looks impossible, but because I am your child and I have seen you do impossible things in my life before, I am simply going to ask because I know that you can do the impossible. So instead of walking around in all this fear and this worry and anxiety, I'm going to ask like I believe that this impossible thing really is possible, because it is. So what I started asking God for was favor. And it didn't mean that my physical body stopped feeling worry and anxiety. It didn't mean that my mind stopped thinking about these things. It didn't even mean that I fully went to sleep and slept all night long. But I chose in the wake of feeling those things to act and believe in the promise of God. And so the first thing I want to say is, if you're going through something that has you worried and stressed out, just because you feel the worry and the stress and the anxiety does not mean you have to accept it. You can feel it, and like Joyce Meyer says, still do it afraid. You can feel worry and anxiety and still choose to trust God, because we know that worry and anxiety is a lie. We know that's a lie from the pit of hell. So you can still feel these things and still have faith. And I think sometimes we think if we are feeling worry and anxiety, we don't have faith, and that's not true. You can be afraid, you can feel afraid, you can feel worried, you can feel anxious, you can feel nervous, and still choose to say, yes, I'm feeling these things, but I'm not going to approach the situation from that perspective. I'm going to trust God even through the fear and the worry and the anxiety. And so when I shifted my perspective, because I spent the whole week and the weekend like that, but going into the week that I knew I was gonna, need to kind of face these things, I was like, God, I still feel anxious this morning, and I still tossed and turned last night, but nevertheless, I'm going to trust you because you have never failed me, and I'm just asking for favor. I'm not even asking you for a miracle as far as somebody giving me money. I'm just asking you to work it so that I can have more time. If that's all I get, that's enough. So I just ask for favor. And I ask that you would allow me to feel your presence as I'm going throughout my day, and as I start to feel worried and anxious. I just ask you to send me little reminders that you're with me and you know what I'm going through and you're going to take care of it. So fast forward, I started getting through the week, and I got to probably around Wednesday of last week. And I was like, okay, God, I'm about to try to make some of these calls today. And I just ask that you would go before me and prepare the way and give me favor. And so that's exactly what he did. They had told me it was impossible. They had told me I didn't have any more time. But because I had gone to God and said, God, I'm asking for favor. And even though they say it's impossible, I'm asking you to make this thing possible. I'm believing that you are going to work this out for me. When I called, and I called believing ahead of time, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to call and be nervous or anxious. I'm going to call and believe that God has already done what I've asked him to do, because I'm his child. He knows my needs. He knows what I'm asking for. And so I just called and asked for more time. And I might have had to go through a couple of people and explain my situation a couple of times, but by the time the calls were over, I got the extra time that I needed. I received the grace and the help that I needed. And the Bible says that we should come approaching the throne of grace boldly in our time of need. And boldly means with great confidence in God. It doesn't mean cocky, it doesn't mean arrogant, but it means that we come as a child of God boldly, having confidence in him as our Father, that he hears us and that he understands what we need, and that when we come to him asking him and believing that he will do it, he will do it. And he is able abundantly beyond anything that we could ever ask or think of to take care of us, and to go before us and make ways out of no way and all of those things. So when I get those questions about how do you trust God, or can you tell me how God has done it for you? Y'all, I'm still imperfect and I am still very much living this life every day like y'all. But the one thing I have learned to do in my life is to trust God no matter what's going on, no matter what it looks like, no matter how impossible it is, no matter how many knots my stomach is in, no matter how many times I have asked God and waited. I have learned that his timing is perfect. I have learned that I can go to him confidently and believe that he'll do it for me, because he will. I have learned that he will never ever fail me. And I have learned that I can take a lot of stress and worry off of myself when I give those worries and cares to him, and I leave them there and I say, I can't figure it out, God, but I know you can. So even though I still don't have an answer and I have to have an answer by Friday, I'm going to go ahead and go through my week like you've already answered and you've already made the way, because by the time Friday gets here, I know that you will. And I think sometimes we allow our fear to really outweigh our faith, and we allow fear to cause us to forget who God really is, and that he is able to do those impossible things. And the longer that we walk in fear, like we don't understand that, our fear will negate our prayers. So if you're asking for God for something, but you're asking from a fearful place of, God, I don't know if you'll really do it, but I'm asking, you're negating your prayer, because you're saying, God, I'm asking for this, but I'm not really sure you'll do it. But if you go to God and say, God, I really don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm going to trust that you will. Watch him blow your mind. We get caught up in the how. We get caught up in the in-between of how God is going to do the thing we're asking for, as opposed to just believing that he will. And that is what will hinder our prayers. You don't need to know the details. You don't need to know the in-between. And as the old folks used to say, stay out of grown folks' business. You don't need to know God's business. It's not your place to know, because the Bible says his ways are higher than our ways and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. The only thing you need to know is that he will. All you need to know is the promise that he's made in his word. And in the book of Matthew, he says, if the birds don't have jobs and they don't work to take care of themselves, but I provide for them. And if the flowers who spring up and are here today and gone tomorrow are beautiful and clothed and taken care of, how much more do you think is my children who are in my image, who I created, who have power and authority and dominion? How much more do you think that I will take care of you? So I hope that this encourages you and blesses you, because again, this is something that I've been dealing with, and I wanted to bring this to you and encourage you with it and just tell you, trust God. He's gonna do it. And I know it may be the last hour, the ninth hour, in the midnight hour. You may be down to your last day, but continue to trust him. And when you ask him, ask believing that he will do it. And I promise you, he will come through for you. God will never ever fail you. He is not a man that he should lie. So I love you, and I'm glad I got to spend some time with you this morning. Thank you all for your love and support, and for constantly being here with me. It means the world to me. And I will see you next time.